Let's bring in Christopher Andersen, who is joining us, Fox News royal contributor and the author of The Life of the King, The Life of Charles III. Chris, great to have you with us this morning. Welcome to you and your thoughts as you watch King Charles III make his way towards Westminster Abbey here.
Gosh, so many, you know. I have to tell you, I covered for People magazine, covered the Silver Jubilee of the Queen in 1977, marking her 25th anniversary on the throne. And I remember being in Westminster Abbey, and for whatever reason, we were seated quite close to the royal family. They all came in, and this is 3 years before Diana appeared on the scene. And yes, they were famous. They were people, of course, globally known, but it was a kind of a waxworks bunch, you know. Madame Tussauds walking towards you. Wasn't an exciting group. Diana enters the picture, everything changes. So when I look at this, I think, gee, the elephant in the Abbey, in a sense, is still Diana because of the impact that she had and continues to have, really, on the public interest. People talk about people not being interested in the royals anymore. I think they're more interested than ever because of all the drama, the scandal. I used to call it the world's
Chris, let me just interrupt you for 1 second. There's Prince Harry coming in on the right-hand side. I'm sorry, Chris. And Zara Tindall, the Tindalls are coming in. And right behind them, there's Harry. So he is very much in this sort of second group here.
So he's with Princess Beatrice and her husband Eduardo.
And they have remained friends and close.
Well, I think they're probably two, and I think that's Eugenie just in front of him with her husband Jack. So they are the kind of pincer movement of protective blanket for Harry. They're the only ones probably who still have much to do with him. They seem happy enough. He's smiling. But I'd imagine as he gets nearer the main players, William, Kate, Charles, Camilla, the ones that he's been savaging in his book, things could take a slightly tenser tone.
Hard not to notice that he's alone. He's sort of straggling at the end of this group of cousins, and he is on his own. Obviously, a reminder that Meghan decided to stay back in California. I think there was a lot of concern that there would be more booing of her, and if she's not with him, there might not.
Well, she had a very important other engagement, which is the 4th birthday party of one of their children, which, as we all know, is much more important and significant than a coronation. So
if you tell a 4-year-old that their birthday is on Tuesday, they'll believe you.
Of course. The idea that's the reason she hasn't come. Do me a favour.
How do you think he's
Princess Anne coming in as well?
I would imagine Harry's feeling
very
pretty
nervous.
Well, I would hope he's feeling pretty uncomfortable. I'm sorry, but he has spent the last few years trashing his family at every chance he's got, causing enormous damage to their reputation.
Yes.
Calling them a bunch of callous racists with his wife without any evidence for that. And I think that he will probably be feeling pretty uncomfortable. A lot of people in that congregation, I can tell you, will be feeling pretty uncomfortable about him being there. This is Edward and Sophie. They're a good couple of eggs, as we would call them in Britain. They've done their duty. They've done their bit. They put a lot of work in through the year, attending all the boring flower shows and weddings that Meghan found so beneath her. And I think that you forget about the other royals who do what we call duty. You know, they do hundreds and hundreds of engagements a year, and in return they get to lead these lovely lives in palaces with servants and stuff, but it's a quid pro quo with the public.
Just want to mention Princess Anne, who is, as I said, very popular. She gave a very interesting interview with the CBC the other day. And she talked about how she didn't think it was a great time to slim down the monarchy.
Right.
She kind of was in contrast with her brother a little bit on that. She said, you know, there's fewer of us now than when he said that.
Right.
And we all work hard, attending to, in some cases, hundreds of charities each.
And they're four down. I mean, Philip, the Queen, Harry, Meghan. That's four of the top 10 royals have effectively been removed from the royal duty list, 2 through death and 2 through severing their links with the country. That does mean a lot more work, of course, for the ones who are left.
There are a few things in the ceremony that you should pay attention to, because for the first time, a personal prayer will be voiced by the sovereign, by King Charles, in a coronation. That has never happened, and that's at the very top. You'll have the greeting and a moment of silence, the introduction. There'll be a presentation of the Bible, and then the oath where the king promises to govern, and then you will have the king's prayer.
Well, don't move on from the oath too quickly, because that's become a real hot potato. Because the Archbishop of Canterbury came up with this idea that the public, watching at home with their families, might all recite this oath of allegiance, but not just to the king, which I think we would have been fine with, but also to all his heirs and successors. Now, The reason that I and many had a problem with that is because if you take it to its logical conclusion, should something, God forbid, happen to Charles and or William, who's next on the royal cab rank to be king? Harry. Who's a little lower?
After all three kids.
Yeah, but they'd be too young, right? And who would be after that? Well, Andrew is still on the succession list, right? As the next one down from Charles. So constitutionally, you've got to take these into account. If you're going to ask the British public to swear allegiance to all your heirs and successors, most British people went, well, hang on a second. What if that's Harry? What if that's Andrew? So these are quite interesting things. So that oath turned out to be incredibly unpopular. They've actually amended the wording. So it's no longer this big entreaty to everyone to do it.
What I was so intrigued with is the traditions and the customs and how all of this has been passed on for generations to generations and how they always remember Jesus Christ. I mean, this entire coronation is called the Operation Golden Orb. And the Golden Orb, you'll see it throughout the ceremony, it symbolizes the world underneath the cross of Jesus Christ, which I just thought was really special. And also the gift that Pope Francis gave to the king for the coronation are splinters of wood that he says have come from the cross that Jesus Christ hung on and was crucified on. And that will be the cross during the procession that you will see throughout the ceremony as well.
Let's bring Chris Andersen back in. Chris, we're discussing here the family, the difficulties. I also just want to mention the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. We saw Sophie and Prince Edward as they came in. That title passed down from the Queen's husband, who was the Duke of Edinburgh. So that's a very important title with great meaning to the family, and they received those titles recently. Chris?
Yes. Yes, indeed. And, as I watch this carriage go by and I think of the differences here, this is the Diamond Jubilee carriage, and it has been refashioned and made comfortable with air conditioning and hydraulics and all sorts of things, and contains all these little bits and pieces of British history. I think, I wonder, I'm going back to the time when Elizabeth was crowned and wondering what Charles's memories are of that, because we've seen television footage of him sitting between his aunt, Princess Margaret, and the Queen Mother, and fidgeting and looking bored. There was a moment when the crown was placed on the new Queen's head, and his hand went, and the cameras caught this, went reflexively to his own head, and he realized he had this brilliantine glop on his head. He talks about this, one of his childhood memories. He immediately sniffed it and then put it under the Queen's mother's nose to consider the scent of it. So, I mean, you have to remember, this is a family, and he'll have childhood memories of when he gets to the point when the crown is placed on his head. It'll be quite moving for him, I'm sure. And of course, Camilla, as you pointed out before, I think she could never have dreamed a million years that she would be in this position, nor could anyone else have thought that. And I think she'll be trembling. And we'll see what happens. It's one thing to wed the future king, to be allowed to do it because the king promised you'd never be queen, you'd be princess consort, and then have the rest of the nation watch that crown placed on your head. It'll be interesting to see what that moment is like for her, too.
It's going to be an amazing... Yeah. I was going to say, Chris, it's going to be an amazing moment in history to see a queen also get a crown at the same time as a king. But I think for Camilla personally, you're right. The nerves must be jangling because after all she's been through, all the unpopularity, all the viciousness of the attacks on her, now she's going to be sitting in this extraordinary abbey where 40 monarchs have been crowned next to her husband, and suddenly life must seem pretty good for Camilla.
She won in the end, right?
Well, I guess she did,
They both loved each other. They both wanted each other at the very beginning, and now they ended up together.
She won the man she loved. I mean, I think that's the way she would categorize it rather than
he feels the same way.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you do have to put this in context. I mean, a lot of people do remember that right after Diana's death, she was one of the most, reviled and despised people, not just in this country, but in the world. And it took a long time for her to make this journey to this moment. She always, frankly, even as a child, talked about being the king's mistress. I don't think she ever intended to be the queen.
Yeah, her great-grandmother was the mistress to Edward VII. And so maybe she felt like that was her destiny.
There's been a lot of royal mistresses, I can tell you.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.